My name is Tammy Anderson, and I'm a reading specialist in Thornton, Colorado. I've been an educator for 19 years, teaching first and second grade and technology, but for the last 6 years I've been a reading specialist. And about a year ago, I became interested in Kindles and electronic readers and how those might be implemented in the classroom with elementary children. So teachers are charged with the responsibility of integrating technology in the classroom, and I thought this might be one way to integrate technology and have kids reading on the electronic reader. So today for my presentation, I want to give you some information about my study and then also give you some resources that if you are a classroom teacher and you want to implement a similar project, you might learn from some of the resources that I've found. But before I start, are any of you using electronic readers with your students? Okay. Maybe you'd like to share at the end some of your experiences too. So the purpose for my study is, after reading the research on motivation, engagement, and technology, I came to believe that electronic readers just may motivate students to read. It might increase engagement, create positive attitudes toward reading, and increase students' reading volume. So I wondered if the Kindle would provide that context where it would allow kids more access to text. They'd be able to choose the text that they want to read, and it would give them that freedom to read the reading materials, and then substantial opportunity to read because you can carry it around with you anywhere, and then social interactions with others about books. So my theoretical framework, I looked at a lot of the research on engagement, and Guthrie and Humanick did a meta-analysis in 2004, and what they found looking at these 22 experimental studies was that providing students with a purpose for reading, choices in what they read, an abundance of interesting texts, and time for social collaboration improves motivation and engagement. I also looked at the study done by Palmer, Codling, and Gambrell, and they found similar results when they asked elementary students, what motivates you to read? Kids said having a prior experience with books, having access to text, having the ability to choose what they wanted to read, and then that social collaboration around books. There's other research that shows it also provides that love of reading by having those factors. The research done by Camille, Interator, and Kim showed that kids are motivated by technology and they're interested in technology. Some of the more current studies, there are relatively few studies done on the Kindle specifically, but Amazon did request that 7 universities do research on the Kindle, and what they found that's related to my study is that the students, the college-age students, were interested in using it for personal reading, but sometimes they had issues with the textbooks on there. Dr. Larson out of the Kansas State University, did a study last fall using second graders, and they were using the Kindle in their second grade classroom. And what she found is they interacted with the text more than they would a traditional book. And she said that the interactive features of electronic readers encourage children's reading, and she believes that the Kindle has an advantage over conventional books because they encourage and allow students to interact with the text. Prior to the study, one of her second graders voiced her dislike of reading, but after reading on the Kindle, the girl's mother reported that the daughter was excited about reading on the Kindle, and it had increased her confidence as a reader. And I hope I'm saying her name right, Seiko out of the University of North Carolina at Wilmington, did a study using the Kindle with tutoring groups. But only one of her tutors, they tutored students 5 to 12, but only one of her tutors chose to use the Kindle. So she didn't get a lot of information related to that, but 28 of the tutors said that they did see an educational purpose for Kindles, and they would use them for recreational reading also. Dr. Maynard out of the UK also studied the use of Kindles. She implemented it in the home, and what she did is she gave families 3 different electronic readers. One was the Apple iPod Touch, the other was a Nintendo DS Lite, and the third one was the Kindle. And the families chose the Kindle over the other 2 for various reasons. But one student who had said that he wasn't interested in reading and wouldn't choose to read, his parents said he wouldn't choose to read normally over television, after reading on the Kindle, did ask his parents if he could read instead of watch TV. So that was exciting about that research. More in the classroom, Kathy Parker from Seneca, Illinois, she wrote a grant where all of her 8th grade students have a Kindle and they're reading on it, and what she's found is kids are engaged in reading and they're discussing books based on their reading. A big study being done right now, or implementation I guess, is Clearwater, Florida. All of their high school students have a Kindle at this point. And then Deanna Isley in Charlottesville, Virginia, she teaches 3rd grade and she has 19 Kindles and her kids read on the Kindle. And what she had to say, and I'll just read it so I get it correct, but she said she's definitely seen an increased level of engagement with struggling and less engaged readers in her classroom. What has been most powerful in her experience is observing the group's discussions. When outsiders come in to watch, they cannot tell who's a high reader, who's on grade level, or who's below based on their comments in the discussions. The Kindle has really leveled the playing field. A lot of kids who have major anxiety about reading and do not like it have really enjoyed the Kindles because they take away the fear of laboring over each word and being far behind the rest of the group. So my research question is, in what ways does reading on electronic readers during independent reading affect students' reading? And the participants that, I work in a large suburban elementary school. There's 560 students K-5, 41% minority, 31% receive free and reduced lunch, 80 ELL students, and then 38 special education students. I'm focusing on unengaged 3rd grade readers based on the teacher's recommendations and then my own observations to verify that. So some of the ways that to collect data for this study were field notes, just going into the classroom and observing during silent reading. And what I used was a silent reading observation checklist developed by Kelly and Clausen and Grace. And it just notes how many times kids are off task. Are they out of their seat? Are they, I observed a little girl, she was reading, or she looked like she was reading, but the book was up here and her eyes were above the book, so she wasn't engaged in reading. And then I also interviewed the kids using a reading interest survey to find out what they liked about reading, what their attitudes were about reading, what type of books. And this helped me match the students to the books, and then had conversational interviews with the students. By keeping a reading log, I was able to tell what kids were reading and how often and how many pages they were reading. I think the Kindle has some possibilities for being the reading log itself. You can put in the time and put start, and put in the time and put end, and then it'll tell you how many. And it used to be that it was location numbers on the Kindle, but now they're changing to page numbers, which will be more helpful, I think. So in order to get started, I needed some Kindles, and so I started pursuing technology grants and literacy grants. I did receive a grant from Target, their early childhood reading grant, for $2,000. So I was able to purchase Kindles, the cases, the insurance, and electronic books. And then through our Colorado Reading Association, I received a $500 grant for just books. $500 can purchase 127 electronic books, which can be shared on 6 Kindles. I just found out today that I did not receive the Quest Teachers and Technology grant, but I just keep looking for more grants and applying for more. The donors choose, I have it up there, they don't offer the Kindle, but if you were wanting to use Nooks, that you can purchase those through that grant. So you might be wondering, like I was, are there enough titles on there? If I'm going to really look at motivation and engagement and kids having a choice of what to read, are there enough titles offered by Amazon for kids in the elementary school? And I did find that for children ages 4 to 8, they have 2,748 titles and 4,293 titles for students aged 9 to 12. And they're adding new titles every day. Although I have come across kids that wanted to read The Diary of a Wimpy Kid or Goosebumps, and those aren't on the Kindle yet. Here are some of the titles. As you can tell, if you've worked with elementary students, a lot of these are series books. And so that series books produces that familiarity with text. And so once you read one book, you might be motivated to read the rest of the series. And I have found that. And then here's more. I have created a list. I do have a Google site, and I have a handout if you want to look at for resources. And I created a list so kids could go through and pick out the books that they want to read and for me to download on the Kindle. So here are some of the features. And it doesn't have to be the Kindle. I chose the Kindle for a few reasons. I chose it over the other, but there are so many other ones. And I'll tell you why I chose the Kindle over the other ones. First of all, there was a large selection of children's books, which I think that's probably changing, and more of them have more now. But it's very easy to download the books. The electronic ink was a feature that I liked, and also the text-to-speech feature, and not all of them. I know the Nook does have that, but it's the color Nook, and so it's more expensive. The text-to-speech allows students to access text that's not at their reading level. And it might be just above their reading level, so they just need help with a few words, or they might just want to listen to the text. Yes, it is a robot sounding computer voice, but kids that really want to access that text and don't have someone at home to read that to them are motivated to listen to it. It also has a built-in dictionary, so you just scroll over the word. It gives you the definition. The annotation feature, if you are reading and you want to take notes just like you would in your book, but we don't allow children to write in their books at school, they can take notes just like a sticky note. And they can practice their comprehension strategies that way, just by asking questions or summarizing. The other thing that you can do is bookmark, and a student and I had a conversation the other day. You can bookmark your place, and your bookmark doesn't fall out like it does in a traditional book. You can highlight quotes that you want to use, and what some students are able to do if they want to write a summary or a book review, they are able to then download those annotations onto the computer, and they have a great start for writing the summary or the book review. And that goes along with the note-taking. A couple other things is it's easy. You can carry those 100 books with you if you want, and the battery will last about a month if you have the wireless turned off, and the pages turn quite quickly. So here's what you've been wanting to hear about. Well, while waiting for my study to be approved through the university and through our school district, I couldn't just hold on to these Kindles that I had. I had to get them out into the classroom, even though it wasn't related to my study. So I've used them in various settings. I've used them with striving readers. Kids who wanted to access text and were not able to access it, they listened to those stories on the Kindle. I've also had a first grade teacher using them with a reading group. They're reading Roscoe Riley, Never Glue Your Friends to Chairs, and Junie B. Jones series, and they're excited about taking them home with them. A second grade teacher also uses them with her reading group. They chose the book they wanted to read. They'd never read a Magic Treehouse book, and so they chose to read Dinosaurs Before Dark. And now they're hooked on that series, but they're trying another book, one of the Stink books now. But what she found is kids don't normally want to read their guided reading book during independent reading. They choose something else in the classroom, but because of the Kindle, they're reading their guided reading book during independent reading and at home. So we're going to load more of their choice books on there so they can be reading on the Kindle all of the time. And then I've used it as an interventionist with my second graders. They've read Mr. Putter and Tabby, that series on there. And with a first grader, we've read Hot Dog, which is a very simple text, and Go Dog Go. But there aren't very many titles for children that are reading under a DRA level 20. So here's some of the benefits that I've found so far by implementing them in the schools, is that kids have this instant access to a multitude of books. Although with the wireless, we did have a problem downloading books through our school, and so but they fixed it. The IT people were able to fix that, and we can now download books at school. I was taking them home, downloading the books, and then bringing the Kindles back. Students are able to preview books prior to reading. And so if they can test out a book and read the first chapter and see if they like it or not. It also allows teachers to differentiate. So students can be reading whatever book is at their level and no one knows. It takes away that stigma and it builds that self-esteem, because you don't know if I'm a first grade reader or a fourth grade reader or a 12th grade reader, because we all have the Kindle and no one knows what we're reading. And it also allows these kids to talk about books that they might not be able to read on their own. You can have heterogeneous reading groups because of the text-to-speech feature. So it allows teachers to scaffold for diverse readers. It can also, I think, it may provide that fluent, a model for reading if kids haven't heard a lot of reading, expanded vocabulary with the built-in dictionary, and hopefully increase comprehension and reading achievement. But my ultimate goal for the whole project is for unengaged readers to find that passion for reading. So do I have a few minutes? I have a few things that kids have said about it. One of the students said, I've read a lot more on the Kindle because I could read by myself. You read faster on the Kindle, it doesn't seem like such a long book. I like reading on the Kindle because it is electronic, and electronic stores are my favorite stores. When you turn it off, it's still on the page you are on. And you just have to push a button to turn the page. I like that ease of it. It teaches you new vocabulary words. It reads the word when you're stuck on a word, and it helps you get smarter and become a better reader. All of the kids that I talk to about it, they're just like, it's cool, it's fun. My mom has one, my grandma has one. But I always ask, do they let you read on it? But we let them read on it. So I believe the use of e-readers may be a viable option for assimilating technology into the classroom to promote literacy. And I believe that technology, such as the electronic reader, can be used with young elementary students in the classroom to support those reading behaviors and to develop that passion for reading. So if you have any questions now, or if you want to share your experiences, I would love to hear them. Or if you have some suggestions for me. Yes?
So, of these other features, other than just reading the text on the screen, how many of these other features, note-taking, annotation, are kids actually using?
I had a group of kids that came to me because I hadn't tried it with kids. I had them come before school, and they were already in a before and after school program, and so they didn't mind coming down to my room and reading on the Kindle. And we just tried out those features, and they did use them. The annotation, they did make notes. Sometimes they just typed a personal note to me, but they would tell what the story was about or what was happening in the story. Now, in the first and second grade classrooms, the teachers haven't been having them do that. I think if you teach it, they will do it. If you don't teach it, but they do find out things that I had no clue that the Kindle did. This is just a great example of they are the digital natives and I'm not. I handed, a third grade teacher is reading Gossamer out loud. And she wanted kids to be able to hear the chapter if they'd missed the day of school, so they wouldn't be behind in the read aloud. So I went through and bookmarked every chapter. There's 26, 32 chapters in the book, right? Next day I hand it to a second grader. They've never touched a Kindle before. And he's like, what's this button? And he pushes it and it takes you to the next chapter automatically. And I'm like, okay. But I learned something from them and they've taught me a lot about the Kindle. Yes?
So you have multiple devices and you're using them either across classrooms or grade levels. So my question is about management of devices and also about when you're using the advanced features like highlighting and annotations and note-taking, how are you handling syncing the notes back to the Amazon account, allowing kids to log in and then be able to scrape or cut and paste the text that they've put in on the note-taking feature so they can begin the writing process? And can you tell us more about how that all works?
Right, and I have not synced back to the computer. I have taken you can lay the Kindle just down on the copier, and so for my research I can just take notes or take copies of their annotations. I have 21 Kindles, and I just have this checkout list and I have them numbered, and then so I know that this teacher has numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's how I'm keeping track of those. When and if I get to do my study, it will be someday, they'll be assigned to the child. And you can type in their name, you can put the name on the Kindle for each child, but I'll keep a list of that. And I'm keeping a database of what books are loaded on which Kindle also.
It's like an extended classroom catalog.
And I have read about that. There's a great EduKindle. Are you familiar with that? They were talking about that, having like a card catalog set up for the Kindles.
Yeah, one thing that I've seen actually teachers do is create a Google form so the kids can go online and then write in the device they have, the book that they're reading, and their name, and then submit it back to you. So then you can pull up the spreadsheet in the back end and see who has checked out in what book, and then keep that organization kind of going.
That's a great idea. Because it is a lot to keep track of.
Yes, absolutely.
Any other? Yes.
What other technology is being used in your classrooms? Is this something new and unique for these kids, or are there interactive whiteboards and other kinds of technology that are being used, or are they so starved for the technology
That's a good
that
question.
they are craving the Kindles?
I'm working in a relatively new school we opened in 2001. There are not interactive whiteboards. A fifth grade teacher has one, and the PE teacher is trying that technology with the Wii, setting up your own interactive whiteboard. We have a computer lab, and the kids, that's one of our rotations for art, music, PE, and technology. And each classroom has 4 computers in the classroom. And then last year, one teacher did an iPod. It wasn't the touch, but she had books on there, and the kids could take them home and listen to books on that. So that is what I'm new at this school this year. So that's what I know about the technology that's being used. But I don't know how much they're on the computer in the classroom either. But every student I asked, a third grade student, about computers, they had one at home, except for one student. Did I answer your question?
I think so. I guess I'm trying to get a feel of, are they finally getting their hands on something, some piece of technology, and this kind of relates to what Jeff was talking about earlier, and they're so starved for this, so that's why They're so enthused about using it.
Right, right. And it could be that. And that could wear off.
The coolness factor.
Yeah. It could. Or is it just the device to get them so that they like books and become a reader, and then they don't need a device to hook them?
And that's okay too.
Exactly. I'm like, I don't care how they get to books, but I want them reading, and if this does it, it's fabulous.
But what type of purpose are you giving them for reading to begin with, and does that play a factor here? Are they have a real reason and feel like they have a choice to pick a book, and are you giving them authentic reasons to want to read, and does that matter if it's device or a book then? So I mean, is that something
Right.
that has to factor in, giving kids the opportunity to pick, and whether it's
And that's a huge thing. And you know, our classroom libraries are only as big, you know, as the teacher makes them, really, based on money. And then do we update our classroom libraries to meet the needs of our kids? Where with the Kindle they could download books that they're interested in at the time. But it's a money issue there too.
But the nice thing about the Kindle is it's essentially a one-time investment, and the cost of adding new content is relatively less, right? And I'm looking at the title for Dr. Fletcher's talk tomorrow. I don't know what it's going to be about, but individualization, and I'm just thinking that you have a machine assigned to a person that is flexible, and as you said, it's secret too, so that other kids don't have to see it. I don't know how. I mean, kids talk and kids look,
right.
But you at least have a machine that's sort of a one-time investment that can track, that can teach, and just enhance things that way.
Yes.
I'm working on my presentation too tomorrow, so I'm Warren Buck-Leitner, so we should decide what we're going to do tomorrow. But I'm finding it fascinating, the increase in numbers of types of platforms and readers, and just the digitization of all these things. And I was curious about the Nook. Did you look at that at all, or why Kindle?
Because of the text-to-speech feature. And the reason I didn't pick, and the Color Nook did come out, so I've been working on this for a year. It did come out and it does have text-to-speech, but it's $249 compared to, I bought the Wi-Fi Kindle for $139. So I could buy more of the Kindle, but the text-to-speech was the big selling factor for me.
Interesting.
Can you tell me, I'm not sure, what is the licensing as far as the books that you download for the Kindle? You can put them across multiple Kindles and share the... Six.
And it will tell you, when you go to load it on the 7th one, it will say, you've already loaded it on 6, do you want to purchase it again? And so you could purchase the same title for 6 more Kindles, if you wanted that many. So it kind of, thank goodness it tracks it for you, because I'd forget.
Did you explore the library, the public library?
I didn't, the Kindle does not allow that, and that would be a reason to use the Nook or the iPad, because you can borrow from the library.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Kindle doesn't?
No.
Interesting, because actually from our university you can check out a Kindle from the university library. I wonder why not public library.
Well, libraries are kind of on the edge of that, and it seems like it'd be great if you could go and go to
You
the
might
library.
be able to check out a Kindle from the library, but you can't go in there and download a book onto your own Kindle. Yeah, but you can for the Nook and for other e-readers.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's the how it's digitized. Is that the format? But you can lend them now. For 14 days, you can lend your book to somebody else and they can read it for 14 days. Yes.
I was just thinking about the growth in social media because of that sort of collaboration. Is there a way that, have you noticed your students beginning to form little book clubs or things like that?
Face Kindle.
Yeah, right. I was thinking about those kids who were reluctant readers, particularly at the earlier ages, who all of a sudden found that they could talk to other kids about, it's somehow to promote their reading.
Right, and one of the little girls who came in the morning before school, she wasn't a reader. And she had struggled in reading in 1st and 2nd grade. But once she she wanted to read The Chocolate War, and so she did, but she got everyone else in our little group reading that book with her, and we were talking about it. She did not read the text on her own. She listened to it because she couldn't access it on her own. But you wouldn't have known that in our conversation about the book.
It's fair enough.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a way to get her to go, well.
Exactly.
Thank you for our speakers.